The moment before everything changed, I was adjusting my veil in the bridal suite mirror, wondering if I'd made the right choice with the pearl earrings. My hands were steady. Surprising, given what I was about to do. My name is Kaya, and I've spent the last year planning not just my wedding, but my revenge. 5 minutes! Martina poked her head in, her bridesmaid dress catching the light. You ready? I smoothed down my white silk gown and touched the locket at my neck, the only thing I had left from before the foster system. Born ready. Did you check your phone? Is everything... Martina's eyes met mine in the mirror. Set up perfectly. I smiled, remembering the manila envelope Carter had delivered yesterday. Let's see if Mother Dearest behaves herself today. The wedding march began, and I took my position. The doors opened to reveal 200 guests, fresh flowers everywhere, and Ryland waiting at the altar with that crooked smile I fell in love with. For a moment, I almost forgot about his mother Francesca, sitting in the front row like a coiled snake in Chanel. I floated down the aisle, channeling every ounce of grace my foster dad William had taught me before he passed. Head high, sweetheart, he used to say. You're nobody's second best. The ceremony progressed beautifully. The readings, the poems, the promises. Ryland's eyes never left mine as he recited his vows. I could almost pretend this was normal, that I was just another bride marrying into a wealthy family that would welcome me with open arms. Then came those words, the ones I'd been waiting for. If anyone can show just 'cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. The silence lasted 3 seconds. I object. Francesca's voice cut through the air like a blade. She stood, perfectly poised in her powder blue suit. I cannot and will not accept an adopted daughter as family. The Pierce name means something in this city, and I won't have it diluted by someone who doesn't even know her own bloodline. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Ryland's face flushed red. Mother, sit down! But Francesca wasn't finished. My son deserves better than someone who was passed around foster homes like a second-hand... Her phone rang. The sound sliced through her tirade. She reached for it automatically, probably to silence it, but froze when she saw the screen. All the colour drained from her face. Something wrong, Francesca? I asked softly, not moving from my spot beside Ryland. You look like you've seen a ghost. Her hands started shaking. The phone kept ringing. I need to take this, she stammered, already backing away from her seat. No, please, I said, my voice carrying across the now silent church. Answer it here. After all, family shouldn't have secrets, right? She stared at me, really looked at me, for perhaps the first time. Recognition dawned in her eyes, the realization that this wasn't just a wedding. This was a reckoning. You, she whispered. What did you do? I smiled. Thinking of Jennifer's testimony safely recorded on my phone, of the birth certificates Carter had uncovered, of the truth about Ryland that was about to blow her perfect world apart. Me? I adjusted my veil. I just invited all your closest friends and family to witness what happens when you judge someone for being adopted, while hiding the fact that you illegally adopted your own son. The phone kept ringing. Francesca's face went from white to grey. You didn't see this coming, I whispered, loud enough for the first 3 rows to hear. But then again, neither did Jennifer when you took her baby. Francesca bolted from the church, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The phone stopped ringing just as she reached the doors. Ryland turned to me, confusion and hurt warring in his eyes. Kaya, what's happening? I took his hand, squeezing it gently. The truth, love. Finally, the truth. The church erupted in whispers. My phone buzzed in Martina's hand. Right on schedule. Phase 1 was complete. I looked at our shocked guests and smiled. Well, shall we continue with the ceremony? After all, the day's just getting started. 6 months earlier, I sat across from Ryland at our favourite coffee shop, watching him stir his 3rd sugar into his latte. Your mother wants to have dinner with us tonight, he said, not meeting my eyes. Again. I set down my cup. Last time she spent the entire evening asking about my real parents and suggesting I try ancestry websites. She's trying, Kaya, in her own way. I reached across the table and took his hand. Honey, asking if I have any genetic predispositions you should know about isn't trying. It's thinly veiled hostility. Before he could respond, an elderly woman approached our table. I recognized her as Margaret, a family friend who'd attended our engagement party last month. Her eyes were kind but troubled. Ryland, dear, lovely to see you, she said, then turned to me. Kaya, could I have a word? In private? Ryland squeezed my hand before letting go. I'll get us refills. Once he was out of earshot, Margaret leaned in close. That woman isn't who she claims to be, she whispered. Excuse me? Francesca. I've known her for 30 years, and there's something you need to know. She's not... Margaret stopped abruptly as Francesca herself walked into the coffee shop. Margaret, what a delightful surprise! Francesca's voice dripped honey, but her eyes were sharp. I didn't expect to see you here. Margaret straightened up, her face suddenly blank. Just leaving, actually. Lovely to see you all. She hurried away, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night, I called Martina. A private investigator? She repeated, after I explained my plan. Are you sure about this? You didn't see her face, Martina. Margaret was scared of something, and I'm tired of being treated like dirt by a woman who's hiding her own secrets. I know a guy, Martina said after a pause. Carter Shepherd. He's discreet, thorough, and owes me a favour. Want me to make the call? 2 days later, I met Carter in a quiet diner on the edge of town. He was middle-aged, unremarkable-looking, and carried a worn leather briefcase. Tell me everything you know about Francesca, he said, pulling out a notepad. She's 54, married into the Pierce family 33 years ago, had Ryland when she was 21. At least, that's her story. Carter nodded, writing. And what made you suspicious? Little things. The way she changes the subject whenever anyone mentions Ryland's birth. How there are no baby pictures in the house before he was 6 months old. And something Margaret tried to tell me. I'll start digging, Carter said. But I should warn you, sometimes the truth is worse than not knowing. I thought about Francesca's smirk when she'd asked about my real family at Easter dinner. I can handle the truth. What I can't handle is one more day of her hypocrisy. Later that week, Ryland and I were having dinner at his parents' house. I watched Francesca carefully, noting how she flinched when his aunt mentioned old family photos. Remember that summer at the lake house? The aunt asked. When Ryland was about 5. We never went to the lake house that year, Francesca snapped. You must be thinking of something else. But I'd seen the photos in Ryland's old album. He was definitely at a lake house at age 5, just not with Francesca. My phone buzzed. A text from Carter. Found something. Hospital records don't match. Need to meet ASAP. Everything okay? Ryland asked, noticing my expression. I smiled, tucking my phone away. Perfect. Just wedding details. Francesca raised her wineglass. To the happy couple, she said. But her eyes were cold. May there be no unexpected surprises. I raised my glass in return, thinking of Carter's message. Oh, I wouldn't count on that, I said softly. Ryland looked between us, confusion crossing his face. For a moment, I felt guilty about what I was setting in motion. But then Francesca started another story about her real family legacy, and I remembered why I'd hired Carter in the first place. Some people deserve to face their own reflections, no matter how ugly the truth might be. Carter spread the documents across his desk, each one a piece of the puzzle I'd been trying to solve. Look at these dates, he said, pointing to a hospital record. Francesca gave birth in May 1990, but Ryland's birth certificate is dated October 1991. I leaned closer. That's impossible. She would have been pregnant again right after... Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. He pulled out a stack of photographs. These are from a society column in 96. See how she's clearly pregnant here? 5 years after Ryland was supposedly born. My hands shook as I picked up the photo. Where did you find these? Newspaper archives, but that's not the biggest revelation. Carter hesitated. I tracked down Francesca's sister Jennifer. She's been off the grid for years, but she's back in town. The sister no one talks about? I'd never even seen a picture of her. She wants to meet you. Says she has information that could change everything. 2 days later, I sat in a quiet cafe across from Jennifer Walker. She looked like an older, softer version of Francesca, but her eyes held a sadness I couldn't quite place. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, watching her stir her coffee endlessly. "I should have done this years ago." Jennifer's voice was barely above a whisper. "But Francesca, she has a way of making people disappear." "What do you mean?" Jennifer looked up, tears in her eyes. "You won't believe who Ryland's real mother is." My heart stopped. "Tell me." "Me." She pulled out an old photograph from her purse. A baby, maybe 6 months old, cradled in her arms. Ryland's eyes, I'd know them anywhere. I was young, stupid, had an affair with a married man. When I got pregnant, our father threatened to cut me off completely. "So Francesca took him." Jennifer nodded. She'd just lost her baby. The one born in '90, stillborn. She was desperate to give her husband an heir. Our father arranged everything, made it look like she'd been pregnant the whole time. I was sent away to study in Europe. She made air quotes with trembling fingers. "Does Ryland know any of this?" "No. Francesca made sure of that. She paid off doctors, nurses, even had the original birth certificate destroyed. I wasn't allowed to contact him, not if I wanted to stay in the family." I sat back, my mind racing. "Why tell me this now?" "Because I saw how she treated you at the engagement party, the way she lords her perfect family over everyone while hiding this massive lie." Jennifer reached across the table, gripping my hand. "And because I'm dying. Cancer. I don't want to take this secret to my grave." My phone buzzed. A text from Martina. "Found the smoking gun. Money trail from Francesca to County Clerk Office, 1991. Illegal adoption cover-up." "I can help you," I told Jennifer. "We can expose the truth." "She'll destroy you." "No." I smiled, thinking of my wedding plans. "She'll try. But I've spent my whole life being underestimated by people like Francesca. Not this time." Jennifer pulled out more photos. Ryland growing up, taken from a distance. I kept track of him when I could. Birthdays, school events, always from far away. It killed me, watching another woman raise my son. "Would you be willing to tell your story? Publicly?" She hesitated. "You don't understand how powerful our family is." "Actually, I do. That's why this has to happen. People like Francesca, they count on silence, on shame. But what if we turn the tables? How?" I told her about my plan for the wedding. With each detail, her eyes grew wider. "You're either incredibly brave or completely crazy," she said finally. "Maybe both." I stood up, gathering the photos and documents. "But here's what I know. Francesca's about to learn that family isn't about blood or social status. It's about truth and love. And she's failed at both." Jennifer touched the locket around my neck, identical to the one in the baby photo with Ryland. "You wear it well," she said softly. The strength of someone who wasn't born into privilege but earned their place. I left the cafe with a new ally and a heavier heart. The truth about Ryland would change everything. But first I had to decide how to tell the man I loved that his entire life was built on a lie. "Ryland?" I found him in his study, surrounded by work papers. 3 weeks until the wedding, and my stomach was in knots. "We need to talk." He looked up, that crooked smile fading when he saw my expression. "What's wrong?" I sat across from him, placing Jennifer's photo on his desk. "Do you recognize this baby?" He picked it up, frowning. "Is that me? Where did you get this?" "From your Aunt Jennifer." The photo slipped from his fingers. "My mother doesn't have a sister." "She does, and there's more." I pulled out the hospital records, birth certificates, everything Carter and Martina had uncovered. "Ryland, Jennifer isn't your aunt. She's your mother." The silence that followed was deafening. He stood up, pacing the room, running his hands through his hair. "This is insane. My mother would never—" "She did. There are records, witnesses, your original birth certificate." "Stop!" His shout made me flinch. "Just stop. This can't be true." "It is. Jennifer has been watching you from afar your whole life. She's sick now, Ryland. She wants to know her son before—" I said stop. He slammed his hand on the desk. "Do you have any idea what you're doing? Digging into my family's past? Hiring private investigators? I stood my ground. Someone had to expose the truth. The truth? He laughed bitterly. The truth is that woman raised me, fed me, clothed me, sent me to school. She might be cruel sometimes, but she's my mother. She stole you. Maybe she had reasons. His voice cracked. Maybe there's more to the story. I moved closer, touching his arm. There is. Jennifer told me everything. Your grandfather forced her to give you up because of an affair. Francesca had just lost a baby. They covered it all up. Ryland pulled away, his face pale. I don't want to know this. Not now. Not 3 weeks before our wedding. But, no, Kaya. Whatever you're planning, whatever revenge you think you're getting against my mother, stop it, please. I felt tears burning in my eyes. She treats me like I'm nothing because I'm adopted, while she's hiding the fact that she illegally adopted you. Don't you see the hypocrisy? What I see, he said quietly, is the woman I love trying to destroy my family. My phone buzzed. Martina. Found proof of payments. Francesca bribed 3 officials to falsify records. Should I send to press? I looked at Ryland, at the pain in his eyes, and made a decision. Fine, I'll stop digging. He relaxed slightly. Thank you. But I'm not stopping my wedding plans. What does that mean? I walked to the door, pausing with my hand on the knob. It means I'm preparing what I call my final vow. If your mother behaves at our wedding, nothing happens. But if she tries to humiliate me, if she dares to mention my adoption status one more time, you'll what? Expose everything? No, I'll let the truth expose itself. I pulled out my phone, typing quickly to Martina. Hold the evidence. Plan B. That night I met Martina at our favourite bar. She slid a flash drive across the table. Everything's here, she said. Birth records, payments, Jennifer's testimony. Are you sure about this? I tucked the drive into my purse. No, but I'm sure about Ryland. He deserves one last chance to hear the truth from his mother, not see it splashed across the news. And if she ruins your wedding, then she learns what it feels like to have your family story told by someone else. I sipped my wine, remembering all the times Francesca had questioned my background, my worth, my right to join her family. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is force someone to face their own reflection. Martina raised her glass. To karma. To truth, I corrected, and to hoping Francesca chooses wisely when the moment comes. But as I drove home that night, I knew in my heart she wouldn't. Women like Francesca never do. They're too convinced of their own righteousness, too secure in their towers of lies. Well, I thought, straightening my engagement ring, every tower falls eventually, and I'd just built the perfect house of cards around hers. Back at the wedding reception, an hour after Francesca's dramatic exit, I watched her slip back into the ballroom. Her makeup was perfect again, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She's been making calls for the past hour, Martina whispered, appearing at my side with the flash drive. Want this now? I shook my head. Not yet. Let's see what she does first. Francesca worked the room like the socialite she was, moving from table to table. I caught snippets of her conversations. Poor Ryland, he doesn't know what he's getting into. She's clearly after the family money. I heard she wasn't even adopted legally. Each whisper was a knife, but I kept smiling, dancing with Ryland, playing my part, until I overheard her talking to my foster sister. It must have been so hard, Francesca said, false sympathy dripping from every word, watching your foster sister marry into such a prominent family. I mean, given your shared background. My sister Sarah's face crumpled. She'd flown in from Chicago for this day, used her savings for the trip. That was it. I walked to the DJ booth and picked up the microphone. Everyone, if I could have your attention, please. The music faded. Ryland looked at me nervously. I'd like to thank you all for coming today, I began, especially those who stayed after our unexpected interruption earlier. Family is such an interesting concept, isn't it? Some of us are born into it, some of us choose it, and some of us... I looked directly at Francesca. Steal it. The room went silent. Kaya, Ryland warned, but I continued. We have a special guest who'd like to say a few words. I turned to the entrance. Jennifer, would you like to come up here? Francesca's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. Jennifer walked in, elegant in a simple blue dress, looking exactly like the woman in those old photos with baby Ryland. No, Francesca whispered. You wouldn't dare. Actually, I said into the microphone, I would. Because you see, Francesca, while you've been telling everyone how adoption makes me less worthy of your son, you've been hiding your own adoption story. Would you like to tell them? Or should Jennifer? Francesca lunged for the microphone, but Martina blocked her path. My name is Jennifer Walker. Jennifer's voice rang out clear and strong. And 32 years ago, my sister stole my baby. The gasps were audible. Ryland stood frozen by the cake table. I was young, unmarried, and our father gave me an ultimatum, Jennifer continued. Give up my baby or lose everything. Francesca had just lost her own child, and she took advantage of my situation. Lies! Francesca screamed. All lies! I pulled out my phone, playing the recording of her conversation with the county clerk. Her voice, clear as day, arranging payments to falsify adoption records. The thing about karma, I said, taking the microphone back, is that it always comes full circle. You judged me for being adopted, Francesca, while hiding the fact that you illegally adopted your own son. The difference is, my adoption was done with love and legal paperwork. Yours was done with bribes and threats. Ryland finally moved, walking slowly toward Jennifer. All this time, he whispered. I wanted to tell you, Jennifer said, tears streaming down her face. I watched you grow up from a distance, came to your school plays, your graduations. The woman in the blue coat, Ryland said suddenly. At my college graduation. That was you? Jennifer nodded. Francesca made one last attempt. Ryland, darling, you can't believe this nonsense. I'm your mother. No, he said quietly. You're the woman who raised me. But you're also the woman who just tried to ruin my wedding because my bride was adopted. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. I watched as Ryland hugged Jennifer, as Francesca's carefully constructed world crumbled around her. The whispers had started again, but this time they were about her. Shall we cut the cake? I asked brightly into the microphone. After all, nothing brings a family together like dessert. The look Francesca gave me could have frozen hell, but I just smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving cold dishes, it's serving truth on a silver platter, with witnesses. Francesca cornered me in the hallway outside the reception, her perfectly manicured nails digging into my arm. You vindictive little... Careful, I warned, pulling free. The walls have ears, and phones, and cameras. You've destroyed everything, she hissed. Years of carefully maintained relationships, my standing in society. You mean your carefully maintained lies? I leaned against the wall, watching her unravel. Tell me, Francesca, what hurts more? That everyone knows the truth, or that you're finally facing consequences? Her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, face paling. The country club board. They're calling an emergency meeting about my membership. Imagine that. Almost like they don't want someone who committed adoption fraud representing their prestigious institution. You don't understand, she pleaded, her voice breaking. My father would have disowned me if I hadn't produced an heir. The family name... Stop. I stepped closer. You don't get to play victim here. You stole a child from your own sister, then spent years tormenting me for being adopted. The difference is, my adoption papers are legal. Jennifer appeared at the end of the hallway. Francesca? You? Francesca spun around. How dare you come back after all these years? How dare I? Jennifer's laugh was hollow. You took my son, forced me into exile, made me watch from a distance as you raised him with your twisted values. I gave him everything. Except the truth. Jennifer moved closer. And now it's time I got my son back. Francesca lunged at her sister, but I stepped between them. Think carefully about your next move, I warned. Assault charges wouldn't look good on top of everything else. Everything else? Francesca's eyes widened. What have you done? I pulled out my phone, showing her the news alert that had just popped up. Prominent socialite accused of illegal adoption cover-up. The press works fast, I said softly, especially when they get anonymous tips about society scandals. You promised Ryland you wouldn't... I promised I wouldn't expose you. I didn't. Your own actions did that. The press just connected the dots after your little scene at the ceremony. Francesca slumped against the wall, her perfect posture finally breaking. I did love him, in my way. Your way wasn't enough, Jennifer said. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't judge others for the very thing you're guilty of yourself. Ryland's voice came from behind us. Mum. We all turned. He stood there, bow tie loose, looking younger somehow. Which one of us are you calling to? Francesca asked bitterly. Jennifer, he said quietly. I'm calling Jennifer. Francesca made a sound like she'd been struck. You raised me, Ryland continued, and part of me will always be grateful for that. But today, watching you try to destroy my wedding, hearing how you treated my sister all these years, I finally understand why I never felt like I belonged. Darling, please. No. His voice was firm. You don't get to darling your way out of this. Not anymore. I touched his arm gently. The guests are waiting. Let them wait. He turned to Jennifer. Tell me everything, from the beginning. No more secrets. Francesca pushed past us, heading for the exit. At the door she paused. You'll regret this, Kaya. Both of you will. No, I said, watching her shoulders shake. The only regret here is yours, for thinking you could judge others while hiding your own sins. After she left, Ryland pulled me close. I'm sorry I didn't believe you at first. You needed to see it for yourself, I said, kissing him softly. Jennifer cleared her throat. The photographer is asking about family photos. Ryland smiled, that crooked, beautiful smile I fell in love with. Well then, let's go take some. With my real family this time. As we walked back to the reception, I heard Francesca's car screech out of the parking lot. Her carefully constructed world had crumbled, but from its ashes, something true was finally emerging. Sometimes I thought, watching Ryland and Jennifer together, the best revenge isn't destruction at all. It's reconstruction, building something honest from the rubble of lies. The reception hall buzzed with excitement as Jennifer took the stage. She adjusted the microphone, her hands trembling slightly. I wasn't planning to speak today, she began, but sometimes life gives us second chances we never expected. The crowd hushed. Even the waiters stopped to listen. 32 years ago, I made a choice. Or rather, had that choice made for me. I watched as my sister raised my son, claiming him as her own. I stayed silent when she built her reputation on lies about perfect bloodlines and family legacy. Ryland squeezed my hand under the table. But today, Jennifer continued, I witnessed something extraordinary. I saw a young woman stand up to those same lies, not with violence or scandal, but with truth. Kaya showed me that family isn't about who shares your blood. It's about who shares your heart. Martina wiped tears from her eyes at the next table. Even the photographer had stopped taking pictures to listen. To Ryland, Jennifer's voice cracked. I'm sorry I couldn't be brave enough back then. But I'm here now, if you'll have me. Always, Ryland called out, standing up. And to Kaya, Jennifer turned to me. Thank you for showing us that sometimes the strongest families are the ones we choose. The applause was deafening. As Jennifer stepped down, Ryland walked to the stage, taking the microphone. Mum, he said, looking at Jennifer. I love you. And Kaya, he turned to me. I love you. But today I marry a woman who would never have done what Francesca did. You could have exposed everything publicly, humiliated her completely. Instead, you let the truth speak for itself. He paused, emotion thick in his voice. We danced tonight anyway, without the lies, without the pretense, just family, real family. The DJ started playing our first dance song. Ryland held out his hand to me, but then did something unexpected. Jennifer, would you join us? As the three of us swayed to the music, I saw my foster sister Sarah filming with tears in her eyes. This wasn't traditional, but then again, neither were we. Look, Martina whispered, pointing to her phone. Social media was exploding with the story, not of scandal, but of redemption. Of a bride who chose truth over revenge, of a son finding his real mother, of family being redefined right there on the dance floor. The party lasted well into the night. People kept coming up to Jennifer, sharing their own adoption stories, their own tales of found family. Each conversation seemed to heal something in her. "You know what's funny?" Ryland said as we cut the cake. "All those years Francesca spent worried about the family name, and it turns out I wasn't even a Pierce by blood." "Names don't make families," I replied, remembering my own journey through foster homes. "Love does." As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Francesca. "You'll never be accepted in society after this." I showed it to Ryland, who laughed. "She still doesn't get it, does she? We don't want her version of society." Jennifer joined us, carrying 3 champagne glasses. "To new beginnings?" "To truth," I said. "To both," Ryland added, then turned to the crowd. "Everyone, one last dance!" The DJ played We Are Family, and the dance floor filled with people. My foster siblings, Jennifer's old friends who'd come out of hiding, Ryland's cousins who'd always suspected something wasn't right about Francesca's story. Martina danced by with her phone. "The country club just posted a statement. They're re-evaluating their relationship with certain members who don't align with their values." "Karma," Jennifer said softly. As the song ended, Ryland pulled both his mother and me close. "Best wedding ever," he whispered. I looked around at our unconventional celebration, at the mixed family we'd created from truth and love rather than blood and obligation. This was better than any revenge I could have planned. The night ended with sparklers and laughter, with Jennifer and Ryland making plans for coffee the next week, with promises of holiday dinners that wouldn't involve walking on eggshells around Francesca's lies. Sometimes the best endings aren't about destroying the old story, but about writing a better one. And as I watched my husband dance with his real mother, I knew we'd just written the perfect first chapter of ours. The autumn breeze rustled through the trees as I stood outside Francesca's mansion, a single white lily in my hand. The morning paper lay on her doorstep, its headline still visible. "Socialite steps down from multiple charity boards amid adoption scandal." I hadn't come for an apology. Those weren't Francesca's style anyway. The door opened before I could knock. She stood there, still elegant but somehow smaller, the perfect makeup unable to hide her exhaustion. "Come to gloat?" she asked. "No, I came to give you this." I held out the lily. "It's what my foster dad brought me every birthday. He said it represented new beginnings." She didn't take it. "You know what's ironic?" I continued. "If you'd just accepted me, none of this would have happened. I never would have investigated your past, never would have found Jennifer. And my life wouldn't be in ruins." Her laugh was bitter. "Is that supposed to make me feel better? No. It's supposed to make you think about choices, about karma, about family." From down the street, I heard familiar voices. Jennifer and Ryland were walking together, deep in conversation, coffee cups in hand. Their weekly meetings had become a ritual. Francesca saw them too. Her hand gripped the doorframe. "He looks happy," she whispered. "He is, because he finally has what you never gave him. Honesty." I gave him everything else, except the right to know who he really was. I placed the lily on her doorstep. "That's why I'm here, Francesca. Not to gloat, not to judge, but to show you what family really looks like. By rubbing my nose in what I've lost. By offering you a chance to be better." I pulled an envelope from my purse. "Jennifer's having a small dinner party tonight. Ryland will be there. She wanted me to give you this invitation." Francesca's hands shook as she took the envelope. "Why would she?" "Because, unlike you, she understands that family isn't about ownership. It's about growth, about forgiveness, about choosing to be better than our worst moments." Down the street, Ryland spotted us. He hesitated, then waved. Not at me, at Francesca. "He doesn't hate you," I said softly. "He's angry, hurt, disappointed. But hate? That would mean you still had power over him. And you don't. None of us do." Tears slipped down her perfect makeup. "I don't know how to be anything else," she admitted. "This persona, it's all I have left." "No, it's all you've allowed yourself to have. There's a difference." I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. "Kaya?" "Yes?" "The lily. William brought you one every birthday?" "Yes, even after I aged out of his home. He said family doesn't end with paperwork." She picked up the flower, studying it. "He sounds wise." "He was, and he taught me something you might find useful. It's never too late to rewrite your story. But first, you have to admit the original version was fiction. I walked away, joining Ryland and Jennifer. As we turned the corner, I glanced back. Francesca stood in her doorway, lily in one hand, invitation in the other, facing a crossroads of her own making. "Think she'll come?" Jennifer asked. "Does it matter?" Ryland pulled us both close. "We're family either way." That evening, as we gathered around Jennifer's dining table, my foster siblings mixed with Ryland's cousins, Martina arguing playfully with Carter about his latest case, the doorbell rang. Jennifer opened it to find Francesca standing there, lily in hand, makeup slightly smudged. "I brought wine," she said quietly. And an apology. Several, actually." Ryland stood. The room held its breath. "There's an empty chair," he said simply, as Francesca took her seat, not at the head of the table where she would have once demanded to be, but between Jennifer and an elderly aunt who'd always suspected the truth. I realized something profound. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't in destroying someone's world. It's in building a better one and letting them see what they're missing. Then, if they're brave enough, inviting them to join it. I raised my glass. "To family," I said. "All kinds." The glasses clinked, and in that sound was the music of truth finally set free,